why talent isn't the most important factor when you're making scenery. Hi, Chris from Goodness Scenery here, and today's going to be a little bit different. I want to show you today that talent is not actually that important when making scenery. So what I've done is I've made 3 different bits of scenery. These are 3 random bits of wall. Probably not ever going to use them for anything, but I just want to show off the techniques. Now the difference between this one here, and this one here is the amount of time I spent on this. Now I genuinely believe everything that I'm going to show you in terms of the making of these things is achievable by anyone. If you've got the talent to make this one, you also have the talent to make this one. It's just about maybe a bit of knowledge if you haven't got the knowledge already, but more than anything else, it's about the time. So this one took about 6 minutes, this one took about 12, and this one took about 21, minus the time it took for the paint to dry, but I'm not going to include that in this. So I'm going to talk you through all of the different things. I'm going to show you the differences, I'm going to show you what made one better than the other, and I'm going to bring these up to the camera now so you can see the differences between them. So our most basic one here is just got the bricks carved into the wall, a bit of dry brushing, and just chuck some flock down. This one here we've gone into a little bit more detail with making the bricks, adding a little bit more texture, added a small amount of wash on the wall itself, and then thought a little bit more about the flocking. And then at the kind of most advanced level, even though it's just about the amount of time that you're putting in, you've got bricks all at different angles, some have fallen off, added some washes, added some greenery, and just generally kind of made it look a bit more mucked up and dirty. So those are the 3 different walls. Let's show you the difference in them, and most importantly show you that it's just the amount of time that's gone into making them that is the difference between them. So all 3 of these are going to start with exactly the same size piece of foam. So put 2 of them to the side for just a second. So this will be our most basic one. So what I'm going to do is just go through this as quickly as possible. So I'm going to use my grid here to just quickly draw on a line here with my knife and spin it round, and then do the same just here. Make sure those marks go around to the other. I'll quickly do that along this edge here, here. So those done, now I'm going to do some vertical lines. So I'm going to do these every 2 centimeters. So 2 like that, and they'll roughly line up with the top line, that, and then I'm going to go halfway between these like that. Then I'm going to put a mark over the top, lining up with the marks we've got there already. Our brick pattern can have consistency across to the other side, and then again going halfway. So to anyone who knows anything, that is a brick wall. So let's just do a little bit more on it. So we're going to basically try and do this as quickly as possible. So I'm going to take my pencil here and just very quickly go over these lines. And finally, it's going to give us a very quick, gentle roll with some tin foil over the top as well. And that's all we're going to do with that. So that is the first one done. So our next one's going to start in a very similar way by putting the marks, and I think that I haven't fully decided. All of them may start out like this. And once again, just going to go over the lines with pencil. So far, exactly the same as this one here. So what am I going to do different on this one? So I'm going to take the tinfoil and I'm going to be a bit more picky about where I roll and how hard I roll. So some of them I'm going to push down a lot harder than others, and that's going to create essentially a different width of brick because some are going to be more pushed in than other ones. Just a bit of variety, but not a huge amount. I'm going to roll straight over the top and I'm going to do a gentle roll on this side here. Now from here, all pretty much the same. Now here's where the differences are going to start to come in. So if I just take a pencil and I'm just going to choose this kind of central brick here, what I can do is actually start to compress the foam using the pencil, which gives an even greater level of depth and texture to the foam. There's one up here as well. And take the edge of the pencil and run it along the edges here between the gaps as well. And I hope that you agree that this isn't something which requires a huge amount of talent. It's just something that I'm spending a little bit more time doing. So on this brick here, applying some pressure on it. But essentially, it's almost like I'm colouring it in. It doesn't have to take a huge amount of time. It just takes couple of minutes just to do something which looks a bit better. So it's not a huge amount of difference, it's not a huge amount of effort, but you can see the difference between them, hopefully. So on to our next one. So our next one, I'm going to do everything that I've done on that one, so you'll see this again very shortly. This is our final one, and so far not a huge amount different, just probably on a little bit more with the pencil on this one. Now you can actually end up doing stuff with the pencil on every single brick, which obviously it takes more time, but we're not worried about time. We're trying to prove that putting some more time in gets you a better end product, regardless of your skill level. So none of this is difficult. Just going over that. Now, another couple of things that I'm going to do. So I'm going to take my knife here, and I'm going to just pick 3 different bricks. So it's going to go for this one here, and again, nothing difficult, just cutting along the lines of this brick. Go from the other side as well. Actually get to a point where that brick is, and just pop out. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to give it a little tinfoil roll on the top, bottom, and then in a minute when we come to gluing that, I'm just going to be gluing that back in, but I'm going to be gluing that just slightly out. Not a huge amount, just a little bit. Round it off slightly more. I'm going to go for an end brick here. Pop that one, this one, and anything else. We're just going to just create a bit of damage in a few places. Just create a crack here, so I'm going to drag the knife through a little bit and then widen it. Similar thing here. That's going to be the final roll with the tin foil places. Yeah, I think I'm happy with that. Actually, I'm going to take out this brick here as well. Not going to do anything massive or fancy, but I'm just going to reposition it ever so slightly. Okay, so we have our 3 different brick walls, and that's the level we've got to with all of them. So I've stuck these down now. So this one and this one, very simple case of just putting some glue along the bottom and then sticking it down onto these bases. And with these bases, it's just a bit of our foam, which I've rolled with tin foil. Now this one here, this required a little bit more effort, but not a lot. You can see that we just stuck this one out at an angle a bit, and these 2 here have slipped down, and that gives us our slightly more impressive wall. Next up, we're going to paint them. It's all going to get exactly the same base coat to start with, so it's going to slap on some white paint over all of it. Okay, these base coats are basically dry. And, God, that was awful. Got some grey paint mixed up, and for this one here, I'm just going to slap this on, concentrating on it being on the wall rather than the ground, but essentially just slapping it on. Anyway, nice and simple, we know what it is, that is a wall, that simple. Let's move on to what we'll do on the other ones. So the other ones, I've got some white, yellow, orange and blue, so we'll start with our middle effort one. I'm going to take some white, and I'm going to pick out a brick, and I'm going to paint that brick white, crazy. And then find the same brick on the other side. Not that it matters, because you won't see both bricks at the same time, but I would know. Do that one, do this bottom one here, just a couple. I'm going to do this with each colour, so leave some as they are. Some white, use some yellow, so let's do this top one here. Yeah, I appreciate that this seems like an extreme colour to be painting a grey brick wall. I've seen some of my other videos, you'll know where this is going. So that one, and we'll do this one down here as well. Now, it is kind of important that we don't go over the edge of the brick, which is why I'm using a kind of smaller brush, and this is taking a bit longer, but also it isn't the end of the world if you accidentally went like that and got some in the middle of the brick. So we'll move on to our orange. I'm not too worried about the fact that I've still got yellow on the brush. Now let's do this one here. So again, this is not taking any high level of talent or skill, it's just being a little bit patient with a small brush. Just taking my time to get it done. And finally, move on to our blue. Ends up looking like that, so I'm going to do the same thing on It's picking up some interesting bricks with some interesting colours.
There we have our two very colourful walls, which will be left to dry for the next stage.
Okay, these are all dry now. This one is having nothing more done to it for now, so it's going to concentrate on these two. Same thing's going to happen with both. So we're going to go back to the same grey paint we used on this one here, and once again we are just going to slap this on. So going over the top of all of the different coloured bricks, making sure we're getting into most of the detail. You see it very quickly, the bright colours and kind of dissipate into kind of very toned down versions of them, which is why it's okay to use such bright colours on the underneath. And now leave that to dry, so yeah, we're doing exactly the same thing on this one. Alright, next up on all of them we're going to do something approaching a dry brush, although it's not going to be completely dry. We get the excess off and then just go perpendicular to the surface with the brush, and we'll hit the higher areas and not the lower ones. End up looking at something like that. So that's our nice simple one. Exactly the same technique can be used on all of them. So again, no actual talent involved, just if you can keep a brush perpendicular to a surface, then you're in business. There we go. So we've got this most basic one done to say that we've done it as quickly as possible. And next up we're going to do some washes. So on this kind of middle one, got a very dark wash here. I'm going to get a brush and load that up with some water just to thin this down a little bit. And all I'm going to do is just put this across the bottom of it. Then I'm going to wet the brush up just to break up that line that was forming quite naturally. So you see, that's how it is at the moment. If I get wet up the brush, I can break that line up a bit. You can take that up to higher parts of it, but see the difference between that and that, one looking more natural than the other. Now, on the most advanced one, as I'm loosely calling it, I'm going to use some different colours. So I've got some Aphonian Camo shade here, so anywhere where I feel like water may have gathered more, I'm going to put some of this, because I feel like this looks like something that might have some growth of something might occur. So where the bricks are sticking out, it's a little bit flatter, including at the top here as well. Then on this side in here, like that. Then I've got some EXACT Earth shade, which is a well-known brown kind of shade. I put this all across the bottom, same on the other side, and a bit more lightly on the edge of the green bits as well. And then just like on the other one, I'm just going to break that up just by watering up the brush, so it's less of a solid thing. And then finally with this, going to get the very dark wash here, and I'm going to put lots of water with this to really water it down. It's going to get a little bit, I'm going to load up the brush, just have it a little bit on there, and then it's going to start doing some kind of shadowing work just to darken down any areas that I feel like could be a little bright, a bit too much colour going on. There we have it. So none of that requires any particular level of skill at all. It's just putting some shades on, it's just a bit more effort. So I'll leave that to dry and then decide what I'm going to do from there. Now the final part of this may be more to do with what you actually have, in terms of flock and things, but I'm going to show you in terms of if you have a whole bunch of stuff and effort. So the very simplest thing to do with something like this is you get some glue, you slap it on there like that. You say to yourself, well, this is a wall that's going to go in. It's in a town, so it's not going to have grass around it, it's going to have flock stuff around it. So I'm going to take this grey stone flock that I've got and I'm going to sprinkle it on there like that. And then same on the other side as well. And there we go, that's basically it. So we have a wall, it's got some stones falling by it. Nice and quick, nice and simple. Now, you may think to yourself, well, I don't think stuff falls down like that. I don't think that's quite what it would look like, in which case you're probably right. So maybe have a think about what it would be like and how it might have fallen and what else it might be around as well. So just by simply, that's too much. So you can do a very similar thing just by slapping some of this on, that, and over here as well. then thinking about what else might be going on with it. So we have some of our flock here. So let's say, well, let's look at what's going on here. So a couple of these bricks are a bit further out than others, so maybe that's where some of them might have broken up. So we'll have a bit of scatter there like that, and we'll have a bit there. Just taking some time to think about where bits of rock might have fallen and go, right, what else is going to be there? Well, I think there might be some dirt going on. So I've got this called dark earth scatter, and maybe that would be on the edges of where the greystone flock fell. So you put it up to the edge of that, and you did it on the other side as well. Maybe you think to yourself, well, actually, when I've seen walls in real life, what tends to happen is you end up with a whole bunch of dirt along the bottom of the wall, because that's where it naturally gathers. So you tilt this up at an angle and you just gently sprinkle it so it falls more towards the wall than anywhere else, and then tap it down. Get another pinchful and do the same on the other side. And that's a pretty accurate way of doing things. Teensy bit more of this. So by taking a little bit more time at this, now you have it looking probably a little bit closer to what it might be like. But at least there's still another level that you could go to with this. So looking at this, you might think, right, I've done these kind of green areas where I felt more stuff might have grown. So you could then take some tufts of all sorts of different colours. So I've got these darker ones here, which I feel like are going to be good. Annoyingly, they're not self-adhesive, but there we go. And I've also got these ones here, which are self-adhesive. Now, let's take this first one. This is a full one, and what I'm going to do is going to put some glue into this gap down here. I feel like a lot of moisture might have gathered there, and therefore it's more likely that something would grow there. So I'm going to, the technical term is shove that tuft all the way into there. Likelihood is that the glue isn't going to be necessary because it's going to be wedged in there, but try and do it properly. So you have that growing out of there like that. Now the other thing you can do is take some time, and it's like I said, again, another thing that's not difficult. You take a tuft and you can literally snip it in half. If you can use scissors, which I can't, then it's even easier. And then you can simply pick a place along the wall. So let's say you don't like the bit along here very much for some reason. You can just take a tuft and you can just glue that one up against the edge there, and on the other side, let's say like we feel like one may have grown in this spot here, so we'll put that one in that spot there. Can help to have some pliers or tweezers handy for this so it actually ends up sticking. But tufty bits don't just grow on the ground, so what you can do as well is take little ones like this, and where our little brick there has slipped, say some moisture might have gathered there, all of a sudden you have a little bit growing out of the wall. Maybe have something growing up here. It may even be the case that you have a couple of bits just growing on top there, and all of these just begin to add a little bit more character to what you are doing. And from here, I think that just I'll leave most of this to be just stone around the edges. I think but anywhere where something is growing, I think that it makes sense to have a bit of earth around it. A little bit of earth all the way along the edge is the way to go. Far too much, I think. But just like with the rest of the things that we've done to make this as good as we can, this has got nothing to do with talent. This is just taking some time to think a little bit more about what things actually look like, and then if you can sprinkle things with your fingers, then you can do this. Just give that a little shake. Let's have a look at it. The only thing I think I'm going to add is I'm going to add one of these on top of this brick here. But other than that, I'm going to call that done, I think. Maybe just a gentle sprinkle of this, just a little bit. Most of it won't stick, but give that a bit of a shake like that, just to tap it off. And there we have it. So I think these are basically all done. They just need to be left to dry. So there we have it. Hopefully I've shown you that if you can make this, then you can also make this. It's just about the amount of time that you put into it. And even this could be improved further with additional time being put into it. But no special tools, no special talent required, just a bit of patience and a bit more effort, and you can really level up your scenery building. So I really hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, then please hit the like button, Please comment with any thoughts that you've had. How would you improve this even further? What would you do extra to it? Please subscribe to the channel and also hit the notification bell so you know when the next video is coming. I'll catch you for another video soon.